This is Caribbean News Desk. I'm Dennis Chabrol. First, the headlines. Dominica's electoral office brushes off opposition concerns ahead of next month's general election. One of Guyana's opposition parties begins a campaign of resistance for Parliament to be reconvened. A flood wreaks havoc in the section of Trinidad, and the U.S. President Barack Obama orders a review on how to deal with kidnappings abroad. Details coming up.
Yeah, one Caribbean, one people, one nation, facing the same destiny. So separated we are, as one let's come together. One market economy, Caribbean is how it should be. Let's support, carry on, for Caribbean unity. It takes you. It takes me for Caribbean unity.
As Dominica prepares for next month's general election, the electoral office there says everything is on track for a free and fair poll, despite concerns by the opposition United Workers' Party. The UWP has been demanding the use of voter identification cards and a re-registration of persons across the 754 square kilometre island. Lennox Linton is the UWP leader.
We hear nothing from the Electoral Commission as to what is happening with the accurate list of voters that we've been asking for. And of course, I don't expect they will have anything to say about ID cards, although they should, because they have been on this ID card for voting program for over a year. And there are over 100,000 blank ID cards sitting in the inventory of the Electoral Commission, and we have not had one printed in over a year since they started this ID card for voting situation.
But Dominica's Chief Elections Officer Stephen LaRoque tells Caribbean News Desk that the law currently does not provide for a new registration of all persons in the island. Instead, he says, there is provision for a continuous registration and a claims and objections period. On the demand for voter identification cards, Mr. LaRoque says there are plans by the Sub-Regional Organization of Eastern Caribbean States to provide residents with a multiple identification card. He, however, says Dominica's Elections Commission has decided against using that card for the upcoming general election because only about 5,000 persons have enrolled so far.
Well, the Commission took a decision to implement multi-purpose identification cards in accordance with an agreement with the OECS countries. We commence this enrollment on the ID card. However, due to the space of time while the election has been called, we have all persons who are eligible to get this card have not had the opportunity to be enrolled on this card system. So the Commission said that this will not be used for this election.
The Chief Elections Officer also says that a law does not prohibit overseas-based Dominicans from registering and returning to vote in an election. More than 70,000 persons are expected to vote for 21 constituency representatives on December 8. Protesters of Guyana's opposition, a Partnership for National Unity, outside the office of the President earlier today. The APNU began a wave of protests aimed at pressuring President Donald Ramotar to lift the suspension of Parliament. He prorogued the Parliament last week Monday to prevent the majority-controlled National Assembly from debating and passing a no-confidence motion that would have forced his cabinet to resign and make way for elections in 90 days. The parliamentary suspension gives his government up to 6 months to remain in office without oversight by the National Assembly. Opposition leader David Granger insists that his party will continue to engage in lawful, orderly, and consistent protests to press the president to revoke the suspension of Parliament. Asked if he intended to just rely on picketing demonstrations outside the office of the president to call on government to give into a number of demands, Mr. Granger said that the protests are part of a wider campaign.
Well, we will adjust our resistance. It's a campaign of resistance. As I said, we are in communication with non-governmental organizations and civil society, and we will adjust our resistance in order to get the result that we desire. That is the reconvening of Parliament. That is the objective. That is the outcome that we seek.
The opposition has vowed to retable the no-confidence motion if Parliament is reconvened, even as the President has threatened to dissolve the Parliament and call fresh elections if there are no talks or the discussions if held are fruitless. The APNU and the smaller Opposition Alliance for Change have said that they will not talk with the President on any issue that is before the National Assembly. Cleanup efforts are still taking place at the Manzanilla-Mayaro area in Trinidad. Due to heavy rainfall experienced last week, Manzanilla-Mayaro Main Road caved in, causing residents to be trapped. Residents' homes were also flooded out. Several homes were damaged, while farmers lost most of their livestock due to the rising water. Our Trinidad correspondent Andre Perez tells us more.
Until it can be repaired, thousands of people headed east from Mayaro will have to commute through Rio Claro in Trinidad. Director of the Highways Division in the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, Roger Ganesh, said the road's damage was the worst he has seen in his 34 years as an engineer. He said it could cost more than $5 million to build a temporary road and more than $50 million for a permanent replacement. Part of the road was still underwater today, but more than 300 meters of the surface has been swept away. The road has been closed until further notice. Ganesh, who visited the devastated area yesterday, said nothing could be done to fix the road until all water was completely drained. Since the heavy rainfalls, which started late last week, the Manzanilla-Mayaro Road has been the worst hit. The Trinidad Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, along with the law enforcement agencies, have been sending supplies on a 3-ton truck for residents. Shelters have also been set up for families whose homes were damaged. The Food Production Ministry has since advised farmers who have been affected by the flooding in East Trinidad to begin filing relief claims at extension offices in their areas. A few farmers have already stated they expect their losses will not be fully covered by the state. I am Andrea Perez reporting from Port of Spain, Trinidad for Caribbean News Desk.
Barbados has signed an agreement under the U.S. Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, known as FATCA, to combat tax evasion by foreign residents in the island. The Minister of Industry, International Business, Commerce and Small Business Development, Donville Innes, signed the accord for Barbados, while U.S. Ambassador Larry Palmer initialed the pact. FATCA introduces reporting requirements for foreign financial institutions with respect to certain accounts held by U.S. taxpayers, the ambassador said. Ambassador Palmer says that by working together to detect, deter, and discourage offshore tax abuses through increased transparency and enhanced reporting, the two countries can help to build a stronger, more stable, and accountable global financial system. Still in Barbados, U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder is scheduled to visit Barbados this week to discuss various issues related to justice and security on the island where his father was born. The Barbados government says that Holder will meet with Attorney General Adriel Braffett, Governor General Elliot Belgrave, Prime Minister Frondell Stewart, and representatives from both houses of Parliament. The future U.S. Attorney General's father emigrated to the United States at an early age from St. Joseph, Barbados, while his mother's family hailed from the Barbadian town of St. Philip. Holder announced his resignation in September, but pledged to remain until his successor was confirmed. Earlier this month, President Barack Obama nominated federal prosecutor Loretta Lynch as the next U.S. Attorney General. President Barack Obama ordered a review of the policies in place to respond to the kidnapping of U.S. citizens abroad. Obama ordered the appropriate authorities, including the Defense and State Departments, the FBI, and the intelligence community, to conduct a comprehensive review of the U.S. government's policy on overseas terrorist-related hostage cases. National Security Council spokesman Alistair Baskey says that the State Department's review will focus on examining family engagement, intelligence collection, and diplomatic engagement policies. The President's order was issued last summer, but it was made public only now in a letter from Undersecretary of Defense Christine Wormuth to Republican Congressman Duncan Hunter of California. In the letter, as reported by the Daily Beast, Wormuth explains the decision to conduct the review came as a result of the increased frequency of kidnappings of U.S. citizens abroad, adding that its aim is to add innovative and non-traditional solutions to hostage recovery efforts. The government's current protocols for responding to such kidnappings reject the idea of negotiating with terrorists, paying ransom or exchanging prisoners. The news of the policy review coincided with the report of the murder of Peter Kassig, the third American to be beheaded by the Islamic State jihadist group. Kassig, who served a year in the U.S. Army in Iraq in 2007, was taken hostage in 2013 in Syria when he was preparing to distribute a cargo of medical supplies and humanitarian aid. Puerto Rican authorities are investigating the murders on Monday night of 4 people from the same family in their home in an exclusive neighborhood with on-site security on the outskirts of San Juan, the capital. The bodies of 3 adults, a retired military man, his wife, and the mother of the latter, both Peruvians, were found inside the home in Guanamo's Los Frailes neighborhood, while the body of the couple's 15-year-old son was found on a nearby road. Another son, 13, was wounded and thrown off a bridge, Puerto Rican Police Chief Jose Luis Caldero said, adding in remarks to reporters that the boy was found at about 3 in the afternoon, stunned and wandering in a portion of the nearby town of Bayamon. Caldero says the incident began at little after 9 p.m. Afterwards, they took the 2 minors, then they executed one on the road, and when they were going to execute the other, the gun was empty, so they wounded him with a knife and threw him off a bridge. The police chief added that apparently the murderers thought that he was dead, but he was wounded, and now he's under police protection. He alerted the person who was passing by the spot and later the police. The neighborhood is protected by a fence that must be opened with a code that theoretically only the residents know. Caldero said that authorities suspect that the multiple murder is linked to an eviction that had been ordered of a home the family had rented out. One of those killed was Miguel Ortiz Diaz, a 66-year-old retired soldier who taught courses at the American Military Academy in Guyana. The head of the Criminal Investigations Corps of Bayamon, Rafael Rosa, confirmed that police are questioning a young man who was at a home on the night of the killings and is considered to be a person of interest in the case, which is being handled by the Federal Bureau of Investigations.
We are 15 states with a common goal, a unified purpose to face the world, enriching lives, empowering people, creating a strong economic region. No matter where you're from, no hassle, just freedom. Whether business, school, or pleasure, we will benefit together. We carry come single market, good for you and me. We carry come single market, good for you and me. We carry come single market, good for you and me. Oh yeah.
And that's it for Caribbean News Desk. Thanks for joining us. Do have a good evening.